for a shale tax, after the bill came up 3 times, is okay. I do not think that's enough. And that should have been passed a long time ago. So I am concerned about the environment, jobs. Let me tell you, my daughter just graduated from University of Pittsburgh. She applied to 60 positions. She got 1 interview. We need jobs, and we need to create jobs. I can't understand why it's not the government's responsibility to help create jobs. I am talking to 20-something-year-olds, and they can't find jobs after being in college for 4 years. Let me just tell you, all day today I was thinking, I'm going out and I'm talking to seniors. But I was also saying to myself, I read that book, The Greatest Generation. And you know what? You guys are the greatest generation, and I don't think you want to leave our kids in a deficit. And you want them to have jobs, and you want them to have a better future. So I'm one of you. I am not a typical politician. I've touched you. I've heard your concerns. So that's where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Redinger. Kate Harper will now respond, and then we will have a session of questions. Ms. Harper.
Thanks. First, let me respond to, I'll go in order. Let me respond to the fact that I still practice law. When our second president, John Adams, was asked by his son Thomas whether he should go into politics, he gave the following answer, which I think has relevance today. He said, Thomas, who was young, he was in his 20s at the time, you know, if good people don't choose public service, other people will. He actually said men. Okay, he said, if wise men don't do public service, other men will. But I just fixed it there a little bit. But he said, so he was encouraging him. But he said, but before you get into politics, make sure you have a job or a profession by which you can feed your family and take care of yourself, because you never want your integrity to be on the line. John Adams felt that if you weren't dependent on getting reelected or making a specific vote to keep your job, that you would be freer to do what your conscience demanded. And I agree with that. When I got to Harrisburg, our speaker, Matt Ryan, said to me, what did you do before you came here? I said, I was a lawyer. He was a lawyer too. He said, good, don't give it up. No matter what we threaten you with out here, you will always be able to feed your family. I believe that. The jobs I have are township solicitor jobs because you do them at night. Those of you who have been in local government know that. The meetings are at night, and they're usually peopled by clients who understand public service because they're in it themselves. It's a part-time job. I'm backed by a very fine law firm, Timothy Knox, in Fort Washington. I have to tell you, I have somebody attending a meeting for me right now. I had 2 of them, actually. So I can handle this. I've worked very hard for you, and I do a good job. Now, I forget what the other things were that we wanted to rebut, but I do want to talk a little bit about the fact that I don't know what a typical politician is. I, in fact, never grew up wanting to be a state rep. I was just trying to save some open space and ended up on my local planning commission. Then I ended up as township supervisor and on the county open space task force, where we came out with a plan and bought open space or parks in every municipality in Montgomery County. After that, I had a little bit of notoriety, and the fellow who held this seat decided not to run again. I think I've done a good job for you. I'm not sure what a typical politician is. I can tell you it's not a woman and it's not a lawyer, because in Harrisburg there are very few women and there are very few lawyers. Do the best I can, and I would be honored if you would re-elect me. Thank you.
We will open it up for questions now. Please raise your hand and let me bring the microphone over to you so everyone can hear your question. please direct the question to either Ms. Renninger or Ms. Harper, and then we will give the person the question is not directed to an opportunity to respond also if they choose.
Ms. Messenger, it's on. Can you hear me, everybody? Since you're in healthcare, I would like very much to know your opinion of the Obama healthcare program, which affects the entire nation and every nick and corner of it. So even though you're only going to be involved in a small portion of the population, I would very much like to know how you feel about it. The Republicans feel it ought to be completely abolished since they're going to start over again. I think perhaps it could be modified because the main problem seems to be the business of requiring that everybody buy health insurance. What is your opinion of that?
Thank you. What's your first
Clooney.
name? Thanks, Clooney. Yeah, I agree with you. It should be modified. It's not a perfect health plan. We have to give it a chance. But I can tell you, we're paying for health care already. People that do not have insurance are presenting to the ER, and it's costing us a lot of money instead of them going to a primary care doctor. So, no, I don't think the plan is perfect. You know, I go into houses or talk to people, and they call it Obamacare. That actually offends me, at least, because I think it's a health care plan, and it's a start. I was in a home the other day, an 87-year-old female, lives by herself, no family, just a beautiful lady. You know, gray hair down to here. She's there, come on in, Mary Lou, and we sat. And I said, well, you know, let me do your wound care. And first of all, I said, well, how did this happen? How did this wound happen? And she said, well, I was outside and this cat looks kind of, you know, skinny. I was feeding it and it bit me. So I don't know if you know, but, you know, cat bites are pretty nasty. So she had a wound about this size. I said, okay, well, let me dress your wound. And she goes, I said, where's your wound care supplies? She goes, my insurance denied it. So plans aren't perfect, but I intend to bring some problems to the surface. Why are we refusing wound care supplies to an 80-something-year-old lady? So there are problems. But we can afford this. We can afford affordable health care for all. My opponent voted against HB1, and that would entitle people in need to pay into a health care plan. Why? Why not? You know, that was okay. If somebody was paying towards their health care. So, but we need that central database. We need preventative health care, and we can afford this. Please listen to me. We can afford this, because that's the question I get asked from a lot of my patients. How can we afford this? We can. We just have to be preventative, and we also have to get everybody communicating. Thank you.
Representative Harper?
I would have voted no had I been in Congress when the bill came up. Here in Pennsylvania, we have had for many years a program called Adult Basic. If, as you probably know, we take care of the health needs of seniors who cannot afford their health care, and we had a program for younger adults where we either paid for it for you, it's called Adult Basic, or you could buy into it, okay? When the HB1 came up for a vote in January of 2009, the proposal was to expand Adult Basic, these are young adults, and it had a very large price tag, and it called for spending money from the Tobacco Settlement Fund that had already been allocated, if not spent, in the previous year's budget. I voted no, even though a few years earlier, I myself had had a more modest bill that would have expanded adult basic here in Pennsylvania, but in 2009, we couldn't afford it. We have to have a balanced budget, remember? We can't deficit spend. We didn't have the money for that. What I would have preferred, and I have a bill that would do this, is a consumer advocate for health care, health insurance, basically. Consumer advocate for health insurance, who would act sort of like the consumer advocate at the PUC. So that when you get a pile of rejections, people come and see me, they dump a pile of rejections from their insurance company on the desk. They have no idea why they were rejected. Many people just pay the bills that should have been covered. I think that we should have somebody who could help with systemic denials. I also define consumer to be just not those of you who are using health care, but also employers who buy health care for their employees, because they should get what they're paying for the workers, and they're not. I thought that bill was dead, but after the federal